24th, 1993, Bela, Pennsylvania. A late blizzard had continued to spring under control. En route to work, a driver drove down a calm, snow-lined street when something on the side of the road grabbed his eye. What he saw was unimaginable. She appeared on the highway in the spring, a young woman, her life cut short, her past, and her identity a mystery. Only by finding out who she was could we ever hope to find her killer. In this tranquil valley, the Pennsylvania State Police were promptly brought in. A young lady lay dead on a snowbank close to the intersection of two significant highways. The region coroner confirmed that the young lady had kicked the bucket before she was unloaded. She was wearing just socks, underwear, and a sweater. She gave off an impression of being of secondary everyday schedule age. Maybe most upsetting was the rope hitched around her neck. Her hands were likewise bound. Her body was removed for a dissection. Before long, expression of the wrongdoing started to spread in this affectionate town of 7,000. It was the principal crime in Bela in 13 years. Analysts looked for whatever could assist with distinguishing the young lady. They tracked down no handbag or wallet. Officer Anger of the Pennsylvania State Police would be the lead examiner. Anger derived. What struck me is that someone had not only murdered this young woman, but treated her with such disrespect. The way her body was found haphazardly, askew on this pile of snow, suggested that she had been just thrown out as if she were nothing more than a piece of refuse along the side of the road. And it's something that makes you angry when you see it. The crimes like this just don't happen there. And needless to say, to have a young girl's body dumped in your community is a heinous thing. They were extremely upset. And even more so, they can wondered whether or not perhaps the murderer might live in the community. The vehicle had been a truck with a taxi genuinely high off the ground. After leaving the truck, an evidence technician made plaster casts of the tracks to be sent to the Pennsylvania State Police Lab. Examiners there would attempt to identify the brand and check for anything unusual about them. The body was taken to Lehigh Hospital in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where Dr. Maha, the coroner, would perform the autopsy. As Trooper Madden observed, the doctor determined the cause of death to be strangulation. There were no gunshot or stab wounds. Whether she was raped or had consensual sex at the time was not known. However, based on the circumstances, we believe at the time that a rape may have occurred. Checks were made with her fingerprints through the. Dr. Maha carefully removed the rope from around the girl's neck and noticed a single dark hair under the knot. This black hair didn't belong to the blonde girl and could potentially be the killer's. The hair would be sent to the FBI forensics lab in Washington, D.C., along with the knots for analysis. X-rays were also taken by a forensic dentist. The APHIS system, which is a national system of checking fingerprints. They came back. Negative checks were also made using descriptors of the body and characteristics of the body, and that also came back negative. So we had no wreck. These could be crucial in identifying the woman. If a tentative ID were made, and these X-rays matched those taken when the woman was alive, they would confirm her identity. However, first, she would need to be visually identified by someone who knew her in life, which would be difficult after a full autopsy. Facial incisions made for the dental X-rays and masking contusions would take hours of painstaking work to restore her appearance. This task required the artistry of a skilled mortician. Stephen Mond was just the man for the job.
When we received the body, she'd been through quite an ordeal. We had to put a little bit of makeup on her. We had to get her hair done. We dressed her.
We made her look as lifelike as possible. At that point,
look as lifelike as possible. At that point, we then proceeded to take photographs that were eventually placed in the newspaper.
Mond's caring work gave investigators exactly what they needed. They showed photos of the girl to dozens of truckers at local truck stops, restaurants, and gas stations. Some offered the names of people the girl resembled. Her young face struck a chord of recognition in many who saw it. The outpouring of calls to the state police at the time was plentiful, and we had to sift through every lead to try to determine if this person was a local person. Then, in late April, about a month after the body was found, the FBI lab called Trooper Madden. Their analysis revealed that the writing on the girl's left palm was a phone number with a Florida area code. Madden discovered the number had been disconnected and began to wonder if the area code itself was wrong. Madden also realized there were 2 phone numbers written on the girl's hand, not just one. He noted all the cities within a 12-hour radius that had both the exchanges he had written down. There was a genuine showing of affection for this person and concern. I guess you could say she was posthumously adopted by the community of Belmont. And even though we were very quickly able to ascertain that she was not a local resident, there was still a very strong sense of she is someone that we cared about. Madden and his colleague Coe sent the numbers, along with photos and descriptions of the young woman, to sheriffs and state police in those areas. More than a month after the body was found, it was time for a burial. Not only did the town want to bring closure to the tragedy, but the body could not be preserved much longer. Still, Madden needed just a little more time. The last thing we wanted to do as a police agency was to lose the body. In other words, we did not want the body buried at that point in time without identification. Madden explained. Just when the body could be kept no longer, a break in the case finally came. A sheriff's office in Maine received Madden's information packet. "See what you think of this girl," the sheriff suggested to his team. Though he didn't recognize her face, the sheriff called one of the numbers written on the girl's hand. He had no idea who might answer the phone. "Hello, this is Sheriff," he began when someone picked up. He reached Mark Rosenberg, a guidance counselor at a local school, which seemed promising given the girl's age. "I'm Detective Stables. Thanks so much for meeting with me tonight," Rosenberg replied, setting the stage for a potential breakthrough in identifying the young woman. A detective visited Rosenberg and his wife at their home. "I'd like to see if you can help me identify this woman," he said, showing them a photo of the girl. The Rosenbergs immediately recognized her. "Look at that, please," the detective prompted. When they spoke her name, it sent chills down their spines. "It's Dawn Mary Birnbaum." The school sent Dawn's dental records to Pennsylvania, where forensic dentists matched them to X-rays taken at the morgue. The result was a positive ID and a turning point in the case. I was shocked and was amazed. It was just a strange coincidence. But it felt right. She was part of our community. As Mr. Rosenberg was talking to Dawn, the operator was interrupting, telling her to put more money and time was running out, and Mr. Rosenberg told Dawn to call them again, so he would know she was safe. She said she would do that. He gave her his home telephone number, which obviously she then wrote on the palm of her hand. She said she'd call. Maine State Police officers interviewed Dawn's friends, including Heidi Hansen. Heidi told them Dawn had been planning to hitch a ride with a truck driver as she had done about a year before. On that occasion, Dawn and another friend, Mandy Gray, had run off with a trucker named John Hoffpower. They dropped off Mandy at her home in Georgia and continued on. What had started as a ride became a relationship. As the weeks passed, they grew closer and continued to travel together, driving his routes. No one knew exactly where they had gone or what they had done, but Dawn spoke fondly of her time with Hoffpower. They enjoyed each other's company, and he treated her well. It seemed like one of the few happy times in her troubled life. Then, about a month after Dawn was last seen, the truck was pulled over by police in a random traffic stop. An officer demanded Dawn get out. On the evening of Sunday, March 21st, 3 days before Dawn was found dead, she had snuck off from a movie theater. She told her friend Heidi she would hitchhike to the Thar truck stop in Bangor, Maine, hoping to meet Hoffpower. Meanwhile, Trooper Madden obtained receipts from the 3 truck stops closest to where Dawn's body was found in Pennsylvania. They hoped that whoever had given Dawn a ride had bought gas at both locations. The distance from Bangor to Bela is just over 650 miles, but a big rig can easily travel 1,500 miles or more on a single tank of gas. It was a long shot, but Kohik and Madden began the painstaking task of scanning thousands of gas receipts. One name stood out: James Robert Cruz, Jr. Cruz had bought gas on the morning of March 22nd at the Thar truck stop, just as Dawn was talking on the telephone 15 feet away. Agents discovered that people recalled seeing the young blonde girl there standing at the doorway, asking truckers for rides as they walked through. She was recalled by several people at the truck stop. 3 days later, he gassed up again in Milesburg, Pennsylvania, just a few hours before Dawn's body was found nearby. This was another breakthrough in the case. Investigators waited for Cruz to return from his run. They told him they were looking for a runaway last seen at a truck stop in Bangor, Maine. They implied they were talking to many drivers. "I'm sorry," Cruz said in response to questions. He calmly described his route, but claimed he didn't need to fuel up between Bangor and Pennsylvania because the 240 gallons his truck could carry was enough for the trip. Investigators told him they had strong evidence linking him to the crime. But the one thing we noticed was that the misrepresentations in the log seemed to occur just conveniently when the fuel was purchased in Pennsylvania, also when the fuel was purchased in Ards. Dawn's phone calls from Bangor coinciding with his stopover, the match of his truck tires to the tracks at the scene, and the match of his blood type to that found on the body. He calmly chalked it all up to coincidence. At no point during the interview did any of his mannerisms indicate that he was at all nervous with my line of questioning. And as the night slowly went on, I think even Detective Madden agreed that he became less of a suspect for us. Even though we had all this circumstantial evidence, he was just too calm and cooperative. On September 6th, the results of the blood and hair analysis came in, proving investigators right. The samples from Cruz matched the hair and DNA left on Dawn's body. With that evidence, agents obtained a federal arrest warrant for James Robert Cruz, Jr. on September 8, 1993. The FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police arrested the man who had brutally raped and murdered Dawn Mary Birnbaum. Agent Kohik and Trooper Madden arrested James Robert Cruz, Jr. when he returned from another trucking run. As they made the arrest, Cruz suddenly dropped his easygoing attitude. In the early hours of March 24th, he had pulled over to the side of the road and disposed of Dawn's body. Robert Cruz Jr. pushed Dawn's body out of the truck and onto the side of a highway entrance ramp. He was charged with first, second, and third-degree murder, rape, kidnapping, and the federal charge of unlawful flight to avoid prosecution.